podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Frame Rate is brought to you by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/framerate. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, or online store. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use offer code FRAMERATE6. Welcome to Frame Rate, episode 129. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood. Do you recognize the guy who was singing in that video?
No, Brian, tell me about the featured video that opened our show, about which we are now commenting, thus making it fair use.
That is the video for Wishes from Beach House, directed by Eric of Tim and Eric fame.
Okay.
That was Ray Wise singing.
Right, Laura Palmer's father.
Yeah, exactly. It's some kind of awesomely bizarre sporting event. Like, I highly recommend you watch the video because it is one of those weird Tim and Eric-y kind of warts and all presentations with some strange cheerleaders and a sport that's never quite named, kind of like a certain
the horse heads.
FSL tonight. Yes, yeah. And of course,
maybe it's turning like horse racing on its head. Like the horses are the fans now.
Could be
weird.
The entire video is nothing but Ray Wise singing as this coach. The whole place going nuts like it's an event that's about to begin. And then maybe it's on a horse and flies off. It's amazing.
The horses in the audience cheering the guy riding it's weird. All right. Well, let's not let this delay us one little bit in getting to today's big story.
This just in, the big story.
And a big story it is. Sony and Disney will stream movies for a fee on the internet the same day they appear in theaters as a test in South Korea.
Yeah, now this, it sounds like you get really excited and then you get like, oh. Especially since you're like in South Korea, because that's the land of rampant piracy and it doesn't matter anyway, so they have nothing to lose. But this makes a lot of sense.
It's Django Unchained, Wreck-It Ralph, and Brave. Had those not been in theaters in South Korea yet? I'm unclear on that.
It says here, have all been made available as part of the trial. So I guess those are in theaters right now, or regardless, it does sound like they're planning to continue to do this, or maybe these were previous experiments that they'd done. But specifically, the article mentions how, as we talked about on the show, Shane Carruth's Upstream Color pretty much was available, within days of the theatrical release. For $20, you could download the HD version, which I loved. This is a very smart play on Disney's part because, number one, it's in a territory where it doesn't matter. You got so much piracy. It's a safe laboratory. It's not like they're going to ruin or undo anything, but they can fine-tune and figure out whether or not it affects their bottom line. And it could be that they all of a sudden take a lot of pirates and make them legit. Take a bunch of people who would be on the fence about going to the movie theater to see something and get their money that way. I hope it works out great.
Do the theater owners in South Korea just have no influence whatsoever? They just have because that's the holdup, right? The studios would love to do this. They're like, if we can charge the right price, we don't care about streaming it. We don't care. We want to make the money off of it. It's the theater owners who are always like, don't put your DVDs out too fast. Don't put your things online too fast. We don't want it eaten into our profits of people coming into the theater to watch the show.
That's a really good question, Tom. And I wonder if it's a case where they just didn't have the lobby or they didn't have the clout.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that. Or maybe in South Korea they're like, look, we're just going to do it. You don't want to carry the show. Good luck. You're not going to, people are just going to flock and buy it. I don't know. It does seem like some theater owners are very confident about the future, though. There's another story from Reuters. Richard Gelfand, chief executive of IMAX, told the annual President's Conference in Israel on Thursday, people are social animals. I don't think they want to be chained to their couches, mobile devices, and tablets. They want to go out. Of course, he's selling IMAX equipment to all the theater owners, but okay. I think he's got a fair point, right? Seeing IMAX is totally different from watching on your television at home.
Absolutely, 100%. We've talked about this for years now, and of course, the story last week was, Spielberg and Lucas were saying the exact same thing, which is, essentially that you're going to differentiate the experience. Like right now, it's a very weird thing, and it's surprising that movies are still doing as well as they are, given how little the traditional movie-going experience differs from the home theater experience, except for stuff like IMAX or places like the Alamo Drafthouse, which have special events and dining features and booze there. I think they're 100% right. You're going to see a divergence. The movie-going experience needs to differentiate itself from the home theater experience, and it will continue to do so, and it will continue to thrive because I think culturally we're not going to not want to go out on Friday nights. We're not going to not want to go have an experience. We don't want to stay in. The economy's not so bad that nobody ever goes out. I think he's right. And yes, of course he's biased, with the IMAX equipment.
That doesn't make him wrong, though. He may be just right for the wrong reasons. Who knows? But yeah, 5 to 10 years, you're going to be able to get these movies directly into your house, and you're still going to want to go out and see them sometimes. It's no different than the debate in the 50s when people said, oh, television, no one's going to go to the theaters anymore. And then that was ridiculous. And what did we get? We got Panavision. We got, what was the big color company that made the more vibrant colors because all you could get at home was a black and white TV.
Now you're driving me nuts. I can't access it. I have no idea. Chapman will tell us.
They'll tell us that CinemaScope came out too. So I mean, all of that stuff was a product of Technicolor. Thank you. Undermine. All of that was a product of the theater owners pushing the studios to say, look, you got to give us something better or people aren't going to come see these movies in the theaters. We'll continue to see that. Unfortunately, we'll probably still also see the decline of the small theater chains, which has been going on for decades. Let's move on to another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
Ohm Malik and Stacey Higginbotham of GigaOhm have an excellent story up describing what is an esoteric battle involving network backbone of the internet that is affecting your Netflix streaming, especially if you have Verizon. And I have Verizon. I'm on Verizon right now. I haven't really noticed this, but apparently what's going on is one of the big bandwidth providers for Netflix is in a dispute with Verizon over the amount of traffic being sent. Without getting too complicated about it, what happens on the internet is the big companies do what's called peering, which is you're going to send me a lot of traffic, I'm going to send you a lot of traffic. We'll just call it a wash. Maybe we'll do a little charging here or there. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's essentially what happens. And every once in a while, there's a dispute between these two companies because one of them starts to send more traffic, and it usually involves something like Netflix. In fact, quite often it's Netflix, where the other one says, you're starting to send me more traffic than I can handle, and so I'm not going to add any more equipment. And that's what's happening between Cogent and Netflix, and people on the Verizon network are starting to complain about the system. Now, Brian, I suspect where you're going next, right? Who are the complainers usually?
Yeah, well, okay. So, and I guess first of all, we should point out that this is not a traffic shaping issue per se. This isn't like a net neutrality type of thing, is it? Or is it? This is a backbone.
packet shaping, I want to avoid all of that because it can lead us down an entire rabbit hole. But you're right. This is not a net neutrality violation as far as like we're degrading particular video. But it could be argued as a net neutrality violation because Verizon is looking at Netflix coming through Cogent and saying, we're not going to add capacity to that one. We also just happen to have our own video streaming service because the other big one that fights over this kind of issue is Comcast, who, guess what? Also a cable TV operator who would like to not have to compete with Netflix. So it is suspicious.
Yeah. So in other words, this would be more like not directly shaping traffic that is
not
Netflix
shaping.
based.
There's nothing shaping.
But not buying. You're not adding more lanes to that particular highway, and you're quite aware that that's the one that Netflix likes to take, basically, right?
Yeah, and the arguments about cost and stuff can get very esoteric, but essentially what it is you've got a piece of equipment with 4 ports on it. There's more than 4, but let's just for your imagination's sake say there's 4 ports, and they all start to get really backed up. You just add another piece of equipment with more ports. All right? The equipment's more expensive than what you'd pay for at home, but in the grand scheme of things, very small percentage of the amount. And the blinking lights on the machine, once it's installed, don't cost anything extra to run.
Right. So, okay, so this is a case now. Who's being bad to whom? Like I assume that what would make sense is that Verizon would not want to peer with Cogent so that because they know that Netflix traffic comes through Cogent so that they could have a crappier Netflix experience for their users so that other people would want to go to Redbox Instant. Is that the implication of all this?
That's sort of a wheel within wheel within wheel explanation that is possible. It may be that Verizon and Cogent just have had a bad relationship over bandwidth for a while. Who knows?
But
a lot of the ISPs want to charge for incoming traffic, though. No matter whether they have a competing service or not. Comcast and Verizon always make the news because they have competing services for things like Netflix, which Netflix is the big user of bandwidth on the internet right now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to be clear about who I should be mad at because I only know is that a lot of people are getting crappy Netflix experience, and it's because of some kind of urination contest. Okay, yes.
If you want to boil it down, Verizon could solve this like that by putting in a piece of hardware,
but they don't.
But they won't. But Cogent is accusing them of not. Verizon says, "Oh, it's more complicated than that." So it's a he said, she said thing. But one would assume from talking to impartial observers that, there may be some extraneous reasons why Verizon won't do that have nothing to do with Netflix. But right. Verizon is probably the one who could pull the trigger and this would all go away.
So where do you think this ends up? Do you think that just quietly they continue to bicker and service continues to be bad? Or at some point, is there a customer uprising? Because this isn't like a government face-off where there's going to be some kind of up and down vote at some point. This is just going to be ongoing crappy service.
Somebody blinks. At some point, either Netflix's CDN changes to somebody else, or Cogent decides to give in to whatever Verizon's demands are. Like, what if you pay us a little extra instead of peering with this, we'll do it. That's what happened with Comcast and Netflix's content delivery network. That's what CDN means.
It seems to me like if this is going to grow anywhere, there has to be some enterprising person's going to say, is Verizon screwing my Netflix.com? And then you go to the website and it runs a little test using whatever protocol or something to monitor and then say, yeah, dude, you're definitely suffering because of this. Because this is weird because to get people riled up, to make anything happen, you got to get people mad on the internet. To make the people mad on the internet, you need to sort of make a sales pitch for why you're being screwed and who's at fault and who can fix it so that people know, hey, my Netflix isn't working right now and it's because these guys are fighting. Would you just fix this? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the important part of this article is if you are a Verizon customer and you have had Netflix problems, if you call customer service or if you have already called customer service and they tell you that it's your problem, it's not. It's their problem. So take this link and read it to them. Just make them listen to you read the entire
just tell them to watch Frame Rate. And we're like, hey, man, 2 guys on Frame Rate kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah,
so now
exactly.
I'm mad.
One of them knows a guy who works in the backbone industry who explained this to him. And then he tried to explain it to the other guy. And I listened. So I know what I'm talking about now.
But I remember the part where he said we're supposed to be mad. So here I am.
So I'm mad.
The show's at twit.tv/FR. It's pretty good.
Watch
Simply
it right
spoil
now
stuff
while I'm on the
sometimes.
phone with you.
Please,
Make sure
everybody do this.
to buy a book from audible.com because that's one of their sponsors.
Hey, man.
Actually,
you want
if
to
you
talk
get-
about Audible?
Do we get the customer service people to all buy Audible? That would be awesome. Because you know what? The best thing about Audible is not just that it's a sponsor of Frame Rate, but that they have a free audiobook that anybody can use. You can be like a gift bearer by giving them our URL and saying, here, have a free audiobook. It's on me, even though it's not on you. It's on Audible. Audible's like, that's fine. We want that. We want lots of people coming to audiblepodcast.com/framerate and getting free audiobooks because you know why? They'll realize how awesome audiobooks are, and then they'll want to sign up for the monthly plan and get an audiobook every month.
I'm going to assume you're listening to an Audible book right this very minute. Maybe
I am. I am listening to Among Others by Joe Walton, but I was going to throw out for this crowd World War Z by Max Brooks, because not only is it in theaters right now, so you might be interested in the book, but it has voice actors doing different parts of the book. So you get different voices for the different elements of it.
And this is a new one because the one I listened to back in the day was an abridged copy, but this one's fully unabridged with the complete
Is it
cast.
unabridged now? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, that's great. So there's no reason not to do this. Go do this right now. If you're not already an Audible subscriber, go to audiblepodcast.com/framerate. Get World War Z. Enjoy it differently from the movie, which is an entirely different thing. It just happens to have the same name and a couple of the same characters. But that way you can contrast and compare. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, I'm a big fan.
audiblepodcast.com/framerate. That way we get credit for being the guys who exposed you to the wonderful world of Audible.
And give it to your customer service rep as a thank you.
There you go.
Even if they don't. Let's slip into the stream. Hey, Brian, Wimbledon started today.
You know what? I always want to laugh at tennis. You know, who watches tennis? Turns out everyone. Like, tennis is huge, and I think this is a really good play because the story, of course, is that YouTube is going to stream live Wimbledon. I believe it said it's second only to baseball in searches. Is that right?
No, it is close to baseball or something, whereas soccer is like the most popular one. But yeah, those are the top three, essentially. And YouTube allegedly has a channel that will be streaming elements of Wimbledon live. Although every time I go to it today, and Wimbledon started this morning, all I see is a promo to get me to subscribe to Wimbledon and watch it live. But I don't see where I can watch it live. This is a problem YouTube has. And by the way, full disclosure, my wife works at YouTube. In fact, she does some live streaming, although not this. And yeah, this is something that I complain about to her. Like, I go there, where's the live?
This has to drive her nuts. She's like, Tom, I'm not personally responsible for every decision at YouTube. You're like, I know, but can you talk to the guy and see if you can fix this?
Yeah, it's just like when somebody complains about something at Twit that I have, I'm like, I don't know. I'll talk to Burke. He'll
Burke, fix everything, please. But this is a smart play because this is a very YouTube way to approach sports, where it's something by the numbers, something that they can get, something that'll have global appeal. Because we of course see YouTube making a lot of important decisions that rely on the fact that they're just about available worldwide. I think this is a smart match for them. I mean, I'm not going to watch because I'm not big on tennis, but I think it's good for them, and I think it's good for shaking up the sports monopolies that we've talked about before.
Yeah, and I am a fan of Wimbledon because I don't know. I associate it with summer vacation and stuff, and I always like to watch. But I'm not a huge tennis fan. I don't know that much about tennis, but it's just kind of fun to have on. It's relaxing. YouTube also, now this totally relates to my wife's job, although she hasn't told me anything about it. But here in Los Angeles at their creator space, they're going to start bringing in advertisers. What they've been doing at this space up till now is bringing in YouTube creators. So people like, iJustine or the Fine Brothers or Lamar or even like just up and comers who you may not have heard of yet to come in and learn how to make their videos better. They're going to start doing that with like General Electric and American Express and Johnson & Johnson to try to get them to make advertisements that are native to YouTube instead of just taking their TV ads and putting them on YouTube.
Yeah, I think this is a smart thing because the savviest of ads are the ones that realize that they have 4 seconds to audition before someone hits the skip ad button. And a lot of these, when they do just take their television advertisements and throw them on there, you can really tell because it's 4 seconds of buildup. You see a cloud or some stream or something. You're like, I don't know what this is. I don't care. And you click before you ever even find out. But then there are a number of these videos, like sometimes with music videos, they'll pay so that you're trying to watch something else, but now you're watching the first 4 seconds of a music video and you're kind of sucked in, and then they rely on that. And this is going to sound like a terrible idea, but if they can craft more of those to surprise and delight and seduce people into watching ads, that's good for everyone. That's good for the advertisers. It means they put more money into online content like our show right here, and it means that that the customer is getting a better experience as well because you can choose to skip it at all times. But if you're enjoying it and you're going to watch this ad on purpose, then you're getting a targeted experience that is relevant to your interests. So
it is kind of a weird inception, though, right? Because the whole idea here is like we'll have this space where people who use YouTube can come in and make better videos so that more people will watch the videos and that'll stream more and we'll sell more ads. And then it's like, well, let's just skip them. Let's just go straight to the advertisers, bring them in, have them make better ads, and then people will watch more ads.
Well, it's a two-pronged attack, though, right? I mean, if you want to increase the popularity of your medium in general, then you need to hit it on both ends because you still have a lot of complaints about ads and stuff, pre-roll, post-roll, the lower thirds. I mean, I suspect we're going to start seeing some kind of interesting innovation on the lower thirds very soon because we've seen innovation in the pre-roll. The ability to skip ads that aren't relevant to you is a huge advance to bring a DVR-like experience to it. But really, those lower third pop-ups, we haven't seen anything.
Well, but that's
happen.
not what this is about.
I know.
This is about making the quality of the pre-roll so that you don't skip it. But
right,
yeah,
correct.
Also, video is out of limited beta. So if you had any reason to go try it, you can without being invited in. Video, if you don't remember, is the service started by Janice Freese, one of the co-founders of Skype, runs Rdio. And so it's kind of their companion video service, but it's not subscription the way Rdio is. Video is just like Vudu or iTunes. You go and you buy stuff and then stored in the cloud for you, and you can access it anytime and watch it. And they have an iOS app, and you can watch it on the web. And I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop with video because I used it because I got a $25 gift certificate as being a Rdio subscriber, and that was it. I don't see any reason to go back and buy anything from him.
Yeah, now, it really shares nothing with the Rdio experience outside of a similar sounding name for the same guys.
Yeah, they say we'd love to do subscription. We're looking into it all the time, but they obviously can't, like anybody else, get the TV and movie people to agree to do anything different. Because originally they were going to do a Netflix-like thing, but they couldn't get the deals. So they went for this way of doing it instead.
God, who is going to be the Steve Jobs that just comes in and gets everybody on board, gets them to play ball or get bullied out? I'm ready to see that. I think we're all ready to see that.
Oh, no.
You think so?
It's definitely not going to be Intel. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? While we wait to find, I don't know, maybe it'll be Jeff Bezos who does it. Amazon's making lots of waves these days, not the least of which bringing their own original programming. Alpha House with John Goodman, political satire, coming out in November. And Amazon has said, we're not going to do like all the episodes at once the way Netflix does. They haven't said exactly how they're going to do it. So they may not do one a week, but they're not going to do the binge viewing.
I can see mini binges where it's like you take you break a season into, like, say you look and it's like, well, there's really 3 major arcs here. There's this first one that does this and then sets up this next bit, and then release it as 3 major releases. Now, keep in mind, Justin Robert Young and I argued for months leading up to Arrested Development's release. He thought it was a bad idea to release everything at once because he felt like you miss your opportunity to be a topic of conversation for week after week after week, the way we do with Game of Thrones on the Spoiler Zone every week.
Sure.
But the downside, of course, was once we saw what Arrested Development was, Justin immediately recanted and said there is no possible way this could have survived as being released week after week. But I think Justin was onto something in that there could have been opportunities to maximize your cultural relevance and the word of mouth on these. And I think Amazon's doing a smart thing. Look, the way you succeed by being number 2 is to be the opposite of number 1. And part of the way Netflix is being number 1 is with its original content, making sure to let everybody know that it'd be everything released all on the same day. And Amazon saying, well, you know what? We think there's a better experience than that because, you don't want to have to force, like maybe they say, okay, these are half-hour episodes. Our research shows people like watching up to 4 at a time. After that, it starts to feel like work, and they like that kind of broken up. Then in that case, they can have it be like, guess what? It's coming out on Sunday, and you're not going to have to spend your entire day smelling filthy as you plow through all these all at once. We're going to give you 2 weeks to watch these first 4 episodes, and then we're going to move on from there. I think it could be better.
My theory is you should always give the consumer things the way the consumer wants, or you risk turning them away. And I think that's what Netflix thought was there is no earthly reason why not putting all of the episodes of House of Cards. I mean, Arrested Development was made particularly to be binge watched, but House of Cards wasn't. But Netflix still put it all out at once because they're like, why would we withhold it artificially when there's no reason to? They don't need weekly ratings. The way you get the water cooler talking is to boost up those ratings and get everybody excited to watch at the same time every week. Netflix is like, we don't care about that. We just want subscriber numbers, and we got that. So what Amazon's doing is, I think, trying to work between that, saying, well, we obviously don't want to do the weekly water cooler thing because we don't need the ratings either. This is going out on Instant Prime, and so we just want people to subscribe. But maybe we can get a little of that water cooler talk to help boost subscriptions to Instant Prime somehow. So I think you're onto it. It's going to be some kind of like mini binge thing, like 3 or 4 at a time, something like that.
Yeah.
And Love Film got CBS away from Amazon in the UK and Germany. If you remember, CBS added most famously all the Star Trek episodes, but lost lots of their programming to Amazon here in the United States. Or I'm sorry, to Netflix. I'm saying Amazon because we just came off of that. To Netflix here in the United States. But when you go into Amazon is getting it in the UK and Germany. Now I'm getting it all straight because the Amazon owns Love Film. So Netflix won't have Star Trek in the UK and Germany. You'll have to get Love Film instead.
You know what? As we've said, or as I've said before, I don't even mind. I don't even care who gets the exclusives. All you guys hurry up and divvy up the entire monopoly board so that we can at least know that we have a choice for whatever the content is. It's just all the orphan stuff that's killing me.
Also, Netflix coming to the Netherlands. For all of you Dutch that were just saying like, you always talk about Netflix and I can't get it. Well, now you'll be able to. Soon.
Right.
So there you go.
I'm Dutch, and I'm sitting in my windmill with my wooden shoes and no Netflix.
Only these stereotypes. What do I do?
Yeah. How many tulips do I have to
girl?
pluck before finally Netflix will come?
It's 4:20. Let's move on to Tuesday.
Beat me to it.
Apple TV added HBO Go, ESPN, Sky News, Crunchyroll, and Quello to its offering this week. HBO Go and Sky News personally were the most exciting to me because my current television provider does not support the ESPN app, and it didn't support the HBO Go app at launch, but it added it eventually. So these are not things where you can subscribe directly through Apple TV in all cases, although Quello is a music service which you can subscribe to, and Crunchyroll is an anime video service you can subscribe to directly through the Apple TV.
Man, do not underestimate the passion of anime fans. I mean, that's the kind of thing, like, there will be people who, having read that, will be like, well, now I could buy an Apple TV because that's what matters to me. Man, Apple TV, not... I mean, how long is it going to be this hobby on the side, quietly making little improvements here or there? I mean, is this just how it's going to be forever, and someone else is going to eat their lunch, or do you believe?
Yeah, I was trying to read the tea leaves on this when we reported it on Tech News Today, because I feel like this is an outcome of the talks that Apple has been having around the world reportedly with all the major video providers saying, we want to get you on the Apple TV. What do we have to do to get you on the Apple TV? I feel like Disney said, well, we'll give you ESPN as long as it's authenticated. And, Time Warner said, Time Warner said, well, talk to the HBO Go guys. They're cool with stuff like that. So it's not what Apple's after, but it's a piece, which means they're making progress. And if you remember, when they launched video on the iPod, I believe it was only Disney. That's all they had. They had episodes of Lost and Desperate Housewives because those were the hot shows at the time. And that was it. And so everyone at first criticized it like, well, who's going to do this? It doesn't have it. And they're like, just wait. Eventually we'll get everybody. And it was one of those things where, yes, after a while, they got everybody on board slowly. And now they have everything, right? So I think this is the same thing where they're like, hey, now we've got a news channel, Sky News, streaming 24. You could just stream 24-hour international news right there. NBC News, would you like to be on Apple TV now as well? This could be
what I would really like to see?
Slow motion beginning.
What I'd really like to see as an infographic is a representation of how each individual provider has only pieces of the puzzle and which pieces they have, who has the most coverage, and kind of weighting different content providers with their massive libraries, so that you can see like how close to the complete picture. Like what if between two devices or two or three services you could get like 80% of everything you want out of there? I don't see that's. To me, it's just I just picture everything fractured and broken, and I can't remember what's on what. It'd be good to have some kind of simple way to see that.
And the big problem here is, especially with HBO and ESPN, you have to be a subscriber to a cable television service or a satellite television service to make those two apps work.
Man, this is how low I've sunk, Tom. That it's like I don't even care about that. I'm like, fine, you own me. I get it. I'll never stop having to write you a stupid check for $60 stupid a month so I can subsidize ESPN. Just at least let me watch everything. Let's get started with that. At least let me see everything immediately and without any stupid channels or DVR programs or cycling through gigantic timed broadcasts. Let's just get away.
Let me write. I'll keep paying the bill. You keep taking my money, but I want to watch it on an Apple TV or a Roku or an Xbox or a Sony PS4. I don't want to have to use your stupid cable box. And I think that is definitely where we're headed. I'm just not sure if one box is going to win. I'm not even sure if one box is going to win. I've been saying for years, we need the one box. We may end up with a multi-box world. There may not be a one box. That's sad. You know what there is? There is also the Raspberry Pi. If you're like, I can't afford the one box, Tom, well, go get a $25 Raspberry Pi and put XBMC on it. BMC is a new distribution of the Xbox Media Center, XBMC, which isn't for Xbox anymore at all. That's why they just call it XBMC. But it's an open source free DVR, essentially. You can manage all of your stuff. And in fact, if you've got a little extra money, it actually costs more than the actual Raspberry Pi device itself. For $50, you can get a kit that gives you the free RaspBMC software on an SD card, and then a remote control, all the wires you need to hook things up and make it easy to put on your television. So
this looks really, really cool because I like to think I'm the kind of the guy who would tinker, but like I just am so busy. I've never touched or used a Raspberry Pi. And you say it's Linux based or whatever. I'm just like, that sounds hard. I should get around to trying that. But the fact that Element 14 has this kit and say this is everything you need, you'll be up and running in 15 minutes tops. All of a sudden, like I'm kind of intrigued. It's like, man, maybe it'd be worth it to go to the kids' room and then see if you could throw something together, super cheap using just these parts. And that is a pretty sweet remote. I mean, it's got a full QWERTY keyboard and it's going to cost you
about the same as a Roku in the end. To buy the Raspberry Pi for $25, $35, and then buy this kit for $50. You're buying the kit. That's what gets me. Is the kit is more expensive than the computer.
Well, I mean, that's more a testament to how awesomely cheap the computer is.
The Raspberry Pi is. Yeah.
It's also hackable, moddable, and then now, I don't know. There's a little more geek cred if it's a Raspberry Pi homegrown solution, even if it did come out of a kit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right.
You want to thank our other sponsor, Squarespace.com, Brian?
Other sponsor, dude. We're just maggoty with sponsors. Everyone loves frame rate, and they want us to do. In fact, we should make a website. Here's what I was thinking: many sponsors on framerate.org. I already checked. Somebody already has the .com, but for so many sponsors on framerate.org would be the website, and it would be a place where we could tell everyone all about how many sponsors we have on Frame Rate.
That's going to be really complicated to code and put together and make look good. I'm not going to be able to make it look good. I'm horrible at design.
That's what everyone says, right? Now, stop me. I'm stopping you before you say, and next up, we all know it's going to be super popular. And all of a sudden, it's going to be number one on Reddit, and our servers are going to crash. That's why we got to use Squarespace, one of our sponsors. Squarespace is the fast and easy way to make a blog, portfolio, or any kind of website. You look super professional because you use their award-winning templates, and their templates are built to scale to whatever kind of device it's seen on. If they're on a mobile device, boom, looks awesome on a mobile device. If they're on their desktop, boom, looks awesome on the desktop. And not only are you going to look great, but because of their distributed hosting, Tom, no matter how popular we're going to get, they're not going to crash. They're not going to come crumbling down when we become an overnight success. When tomorrow on the news, Anderson Cooper's is like the question on everyone's mind is how many sponsors does Frame Rate have? All of a sudden, everyone goes to whatever I said the title was, .org.
So many sponsors on framerate.org.
There you go. So many sponsors on framerate.org. And then it's not going to crash because we're hosting with Squarespace. These are people who are dedicated.
Okay. Well, hold on, Brian. I get that it's reliable. I get it's exceptionally well designed and will make me look like a design genius, even though I'm totally bereft of design talent. I get that it's fast and easy to use. You could even do stores and e-commerce and mobile experience. But let's pretend I don't already run 2 websites on Squarespace. It's going to cost me a lot to try it out.
I don't know. Is nothing too much? How about this? It don't even take the time. It don't even cost you the time to pull out your credit card. You know why? Because they don't want your credit card. If you pull out a credit card, they would slap it out of your hands and say, you disgust me with your filthy credit cards. Hold on to that, though, because you're going to want it when you do subscribe to Squarespace, because your free 2-week trial instantly up and online in no time for you to start playing around with it. Then when you sign up, use offer code FRAMERATE6. And what are you going to get out of that, Tom?
Well, that would give me 10% off my first purchase on new accounts, which would be 10% off my first month if I just pay month by month. But here's the thing. If you buy the entire annual plan, you get 10% off the entire year and a free domain name.
That's pretty rad, dude. So that means I could finally register.
Use that offer code.
So many sponsors on FrameRate.
FrameRate 6. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. Thank you, Squarespace, for supporting FrameRate today on this show. Let's move on to Philip.
It was a nice thing.
Now, we can all agree John Hodgman is funny and a millionaire, but did you know that he is a pioneer as well?
I know he's a pioneer of rocking aviators and having a sweet-ass mustache. That's what he's a pioneer of.
Oh, yeah. And you can bask in it on Netflix because his new comedy special, Ragnarok, which was filmed was it a Brooklyn club, I think? But it's his new comedy special is going straight to Netflix. That's where you can find it.
This is another artifact of the day. We are living in the age where a brand is not the way a broadcaster would think, but instead the way individual performers are. You manage your own brand and you self-produce. We are entering the age of self-vertical distribution, where all of a sudden John Hodgman is like, I got the fans, I got the brand, I got the value. I could probably negotiate some kind of deal with HBO. But by being vertical, from the creation of the specials to paying and funding for the taping myself, owning it full outright and being able to sell it, I can now also negotiate streaming deals with stuff like Netflix. This is an amazing, savvy age that we're living in now, thanks to digital distribution.
In the words of John Hodgman, this is how TV, film, and comedy should and is going to be enjoyed. Smart people curating great content in an ad-free environment.
Yeah. And of
More
course,
information
that's what's important to him.
than you require, but there you go. Netflix is renewing Hemlock Grove. You may say, I don't want them to do that, but you're not the target audience. In fact, it was funny to me. Paid Content's Janko Reckers, who's, by the way, a fantastic writer. We have at least like 6 stories from him in every episode of Frame Rate. He covers the space well. Says, they didn't make a big deal about Hemlock Grove, but apparently it was good enough with its target audience. And I have to say, I do watch a couple of CW shows, and I saw ads for Hemlock Grove. So it bears out what he's saying, which is it wasn't a big deal if you're in the mainstream audience, but if you're in the right audience that they were going after, you did see a marketing campaign, and apparently it worked because they gave him a second season.
Yeah, and keep in mind, out of the production costs for these, when they say a movie costs, $100 million to make, oftentimes as much as half or more of that budget is the advertising in order to get people to come watch it. When you're looking at a tentpole release or something like House of Cards, where they believe it could be a mainstream success with everyone, then yeah, you throw millions and millions of dollars to let as many people know as possible about it, and then it's very important that the word of mouth be positive, that everyone agree that it's good, and they, on balance, have done that with House of Cards. And for the most part with Arrested Development. Hemlock Grove, of course, all the critics saw it, are like, this is a terrible horror thing. But people, remember what I said about anime fans? Horror fans are the exact same way. I mean, they've got their target that they want, and they'll go. It's almost like porn. They don't care about the story as long as they get that awesome horror gore fest that they're looking for. And so by making it cheap, I assume, and by being frugal and targeted with their advertising, I think it's great. I think it's great that we're living in a world where you can have such specific content tailored directly to you.
And it's an example of Netflix not going by ratings, right? They don't care about the weekly model. They don't care about how many people watched it. What they cared about was our research shows that this subset of people would really like Hemlock Grove if we made it. So let's make it. And then let's look at the people who watched Twilight, Vampire Diaries, Gossip Girl, and that Venn diagram. Did they watch all 10 episodes of Hemlock Grove? If they watched one episode, did they watch 2 or 3 at a time? What movies did they stop watching and start watching Hemlock Grove? Did it work? Yes, the algorithm says it worked. They kept their subscriptions. Great. Season 2 greenlit because it's worth it to keep that number of people, even if everybody else critically didn't like it.
Yeah, man.
Logan's Run is in pre-production for a movie, and they have just signed the creator of BioShock, Ken Levine, to be the scriptwriter.
Tom, can I confess something?
Sure.
Logan's Run is very, very near and dear to my heart. Like, I remember watching the old TV show in the late 70s. I think I probably was remembering the reruns in the 80s. I remember watching the movie, rediscovering the movie in college, and it is 70s as hell, and it is unapologetic and so out there, and I absolutely love it. And in fact, anything good I've ever said about The Island is because of the homages it paid to Logan's Run. I am super stoked about this, and I trust Ken Levine. The work on BioShock, the storytelling, it is the finest storytelling in video games. Full stop. I mean, you might be able to talk me into a few other just as good ones, but the BioShock stories are absolutely incredible, and I trust him to do right by Logan's Run.
Yes, as a little kid in the 70s, I also absolutely loved Logan's Run. It has a special place in my heart, too. I'm right there with you. And the aesthetic alone of BioShock is enough to make me slobber a little bit all over myself. Just a little, right here, to what they're going to do with a reboot of this. I'm feeling very positive about it.
Yeah, you know what? And Ken Levine's the kind of person who can take a challenge when you have something like Logan's Run, that it's one of those movies that has a secret that gets revealed, or there's a couple of secrets and a big reveal. And once you know that's what it was or what it is, it's difficult to make a remake all around that secret without, you either got to change the secret or you got to do some kind of fake out on it to change the homage, or just go in a totally different direction. And I'm curious what they're going to do with this one.
Runner! Another trend we're starting to see is YouTube shows getting funding. We've had several stories about this. The latest one is Bedrocket Entertainment, a company headed by Brian Badal and co-founded by Huffington Post co-founder Ken Lehrer, has given some money to Shira Lazar's What's Trending. If you remember, What's Trending was started at CBS ran into a little controversy there. They left CBS. They went independent. They've tried a couple of different formats, but they've continued to grow their audience. And now Shira's getting a little money there, and Damon as well, to do this right from Bedrock Entertainment. So another success story. Well, not success story in like, oh, they're the most popular thing ever in the world, but doing well enough on your own to get somebody to go, hey, let's give you some money. Let's see what you can do if you got some more funding.
Congrats to you, Shira. That's awesome.
Yeah. Brian just wants your money. That's what
and your friendship and your appreciation, and a tweet now and then wouldn't hurt. I mean, you know, right. You never call anymore.
I mean, come on. I'm just saying. All right, let's check in on the summer movie draft. Ladies and gentlemen, I finally have a movie that made money. World War Z was up against Monsters University, which worried me a little bit. But Monsters U didn't do too bad, $82 million. I would have liked it to do 100, frankly, but I was being greedy. $82 million is nothing to sneeze at. But Justin Robert Young now in the lead because of Man of Steel, which has topped $210 million.
Which I don't really have a read on that. I think Man of Steel is projected to peter out somewhere around $300 million right now, which makes it an extremely good buy for Justin. But Justin, last time I talked to him, was sort of meh about the whole thing. He's convinced that he doesn't have enough steam to take it all the way. Keep in mind, I mean, I think he's got at least another $100 million out of Man of Steel. I think that Smurfs 2 is looking at between 100 to 150 million. I don't know. Somewhere, it's a wild card, somewhere between 60 and 150, which means he should end up somewhere close to 800 million, which is usually where the winners end up. I think Justin's got a really good chance here.
No, I think it does too. I however believe that I still have a chance of getting out of last place.
Is that what you post after Earth your PTSD
after Earth
new existence is
obliterated my strategy, and I didn't expect it to do very well, and I didn't want it in the first place. Cargill totally outbluffed me, so good for him. No hard feelings. Like I was in awe of his bluffing ability, but wow, that just I did not expect 57 million.
Wow, it is tanked. Pretty much done. So that's hands down the worst buy in the game right now, right? Yeah, that's number 15 in the price too.
All I'm saying, folks, is this week Cargill has White House down. I have the Heat. You'd rather laugh than see some Die Hard ripoff, right? Don't watch.
This is what we're reduced to now, is actively campaigning for our movies.
And the movies come out on my birthday.
So if you love Tom, let's make a Tom miracle. Take the Tom pledge. Happy birthday, Tom. I'll go see the Heat.
I need a little pick-me-up. All right.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about what we're watching. What we're watching. So you got around to Man of Steel, I see.
Yeah, man. Do you want to talk about it? You want to spoiler zone it, or do you want to
spoiler zone it? But top line for without spoilers. What did you think?
I went in expecting. I didn't want to go. I wanted to go see This Is the End, because that universally got awesome reviews, and I heard a lot of people who love comics, who love Superman, who I trust usually, say that these are all the reasons they're disappointed in Man of Steel. And I was like, well, I guess. In fact, right now, I believe it has like less than 60% fresh ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, so it actually has it labeled as rotten. Went in, I freaking loved it. Every second that Russell Crowe was on screen was amazing and electric. It did in every way the things I needed it to do as somebody who's not a hardcore fanboy of the comic books, but is just familiar with the movies in the 80s and, of course, him on Super Friends or whatever. It was perfect for me. Every second, every moment, there was some version of Clark Kent or Superman with a dad. I was welling up with tears. I mean, it just tugged all the right strings. Couching everything in a science fiction world was brilliant. I loved it, man. I really, really dug it.
I thought there were some pretty bad seams in the plot. I wouldn't say the plot had full-on holes, although some people would argue with me on that. There were some annoying parts of the plot where I'm like, that was weak. They just kind of jumped over that particular issue. But overall, I thought it was a good story. Story was not the strength, though. Story was the weakness. In my opinion, what the strength was the acting. was bar none incredible in most of the instances, almost all of the instances, and the action was top notch. It was filmed well. The cinematography was beautiful. Not sure it was edited so great, but I didn't care. When Superman was fighting, I was happy. It was a fun movie to watch, in my opinion.
Well, we'll talk about some of the story elements specifically in the spoiler zone, but overall, I liked it a lot.
And then you watch the Avengers because it's now on Netflix. How did it translate to the small screen?
It's the perfect movie, Tom. It's like I've experienced the Avengers 3 times now. The first time in the movie theater and was blown away. The second time was on a trans-Pacific flight out to Indonesia, where you're watching it on this tiny screen. You can't really hear. You got noise happening and everything, and it still held up. And then now watching it in the living room, it was great. And I've got girls who are into girly things, and Penny, my oldest, doesn't like violence, or she just gets really upset by it or whatever. But I'm trying to seduce her into appreciating some cartoon or comic book style violence. And so I sort of just let her walk in as I was in the third act of the Avengers and explaining, who the characters were. And it's like, it's so, I'm treading lightly because I'm a hardcore Marvel fanboy. Somebody, for as long as I can remember, been reading Marvel comic books specifically, and I deeply, deeply love all the characters and the story. So it's like I'm trying to not overplay things with her, but I want to get her into the Marvel universe. Maybe she'll like the Avengers and then want to see some of the other movies as well. We'll see. I'll keep you posted.
Good. Yeah, I'm rooting for you. I hope you win. Couple quick notes on what I've been watching. Futurama. Final season kicked off, so if you missed it, definitely go catch up and get ready to enjoy our third last run of Futurama. Hopefully it won't be the last run of Futurama. Also, Mad Men had its finale. Watch that in true Mad Men style. It's one of those things where definitely, Brian, if you like Mad Men, you'll love this finale. If not, there's nothing here that makes me go, "Oh, Brian, you have to watch it now." They totally turned it on.
I've just come to peace with this,
as
Tom.
Mad Men as it's going to get. And I watched World War Z.
What did you think?
I really surprisingly enjoyed it. I was kind of ready to not like it because I'd heard so many things about how the story had changed, and I love the book. And it's definitely not the book. In fact, the Oatmeal has a funny comic out today where they show a Venn diagram that says, here are the things about the movie and the book and where they intersect. And the intersection is the name. It's not quite that bad. They do borrow some characters in a few situations, and they allude to some events that happen in the book. But overall, it's an action movie. It's Brad Pitt running around trying to avoid disasters. And I'm a big disaster porn fan, so I'm into it. I had a good time. And for fast zombies, which I'm not as huge, I like the classic slow zombie, I thought it was an excellent fast zombie movie. It kept me on the edge of my seat. So good job.
I liked the whole idea of the set pieces with the, and you see this in the trailer, so I don't think I'm giving anything away. The whole human bodies as ants thing, just overwhelming in sheer number as they crawl all over each other. I thought it was really visually arresting.
That's a really good point because I hesitate to say this. It's not a spoiler, but I watched the trailers and thought I knew what certain scenes were because I'd read the book, and it turned out they weren't those scenes. Mm-hmm. When I got to the movie, I'm like, oh, that's there, not there. And so they did a good job of showing like really compelling stuff in the trailer without, even though you thought they had, giving away what actually is happening when you see that dramatic tower of zombies or bus getting turned over or whatever it is that you saw. So good job.
Right
I also want to pass along to folks that Under the Dome, the Stephen King TV show, is premiering tonight on ABC, tonight being June 24th, and then will come to Amazon Instant Prime June 28th. We mentioned this back in February that they were doing this where you can watch it on TV, and then a few days later, if you're an Amazon Instant Prime subscriber. So the first time we've really seen that in a while. I think Heroes did this with Netflix a long time ago. Nobody's done it in the last few years.
So we're on the same page here. I should watch the show first. We're going to try the experiment of me watching the show and seeing if I get stuck. Because I've already bought the book. It's in my Audible queue, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to hold off on reading it. I'm just going to watch the show for a while and see how that feels.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do too. So, all right, that's the Under the Dome experience. And I hope it's different enough from 10 State, which also has a dome. Let's do some feedback.
Now it's time for feedback with Brian and Tom on Frame Rate, oh yeah.
All right, first piece of feedback comes from Jeff H., who is a non-live viewer. Hello from the past, Jeff. He says, one of my favorite things to watch is the making of on my DVDs. So he's talking about the making of specials. But recently, I've been renting or streaming movies that rather than buy. Sadly, I feel like I'm missing out. For example, The Newsroom recently came out on DVD. As of right now, I don't really want to buy it for $40, but I would spend 99 cents, even $2 to watch the making of behind the scenes elements of the DVD, especially before the new season starts. Curious what your thoughts are.
So, man, I don't know, to be honest. I think they're leaving a lot of money on the table, as you know, with Netflix. And it's not just their Netflix Instant. When, Netflix Instant, of course, you get the movie, you watch the movie, and that's it. On their DVDs, you get special versions of the DVDs that don't have all of the features, the audio commentary or whatever. That's a lot of content that's being made systematically for every single DVD. And I'd be curious to see which is the better play, where the studios say, okay, the people who buy these DVDs are people who so love this property that they want to give us $24 for the Blu-ray or whatever. And, for something that costs us, $1.50 to make. It's pure giant margin. These people are so committed that we don't want to lose that opportunity to make that kind of money on them. On the flip side, they could say, that would be the argument for not ever making special features available on any kind of instant streaming situation. On the flip side, though, somebody like me, if you're Netflix, you got this very specific library, and something like The Avengers, I'm only going to rewatch The Avengers so many times for my kids, but I might be much more inclined to rewatch The Avengers with an audio commentary track on there. And I wonder if they could open up a separate tier of access in streaming where it's like, for $7.99, you get regular streaming, but for $11.99, you get streaming plus, where you access all the special features for all the different movies. I don't know what the answer will be, but I do suspect there's a significant chunk of money that's not being monetized right now because they haven't made a decision specifically. Does that make sense, Tom?
The special features are out there. I just people aren't aware of it because there's not a standard way to get it like there was with DVDs. You knew, if I buy the DVD, I get the special features. And occasionally there'd be a DVD that didn't have the special features, and there'd be a more expensive one that had them, and you had to watch out for that. But most of it was easy to navigate. What's going on right now, if you go to Vudu, you can buy a standard definition, a high definition, and a high definition plus version, and the high definition plus comes with extra features. There's also, not widely available, but several movies on iTunes where you can buy kind of an expanded edition that comes with special features that allow you to get some of those DVD extras. Also, websites for television shows will often have a lot of making of behind the scenes stuff as a way to promote watching or buying the television show. In fact, HBO Go does this a lot, where all those special features that you might expect on a TV show season DVD are also available as HBO Go featurettes.
Now, this is the difference, is HBO is the only example that involved accessing these kind of special features in a streaming environment. Everything else you said involved the push to make people buy their content, or I guess in some cases you're not even buying it.
Well, but that's what DVD is. That's one-to-one. It's saying, with Vudu, they're basically saying this is like buying the DVD as a download.
Right, but the problem is, the question is, he's talking about renting.
To me, the streaming equivalent is watching Cinemax, watching Showtime, watching HBO. You don't get the special features there either. They're different services.
So you don't think that there should be, for people who prefer to stream all of their content, just all special features are in the realm of...
Why do you prefer to stream all your content?
Why?
Yeah, I mean, why not buy some things sometimes? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is the model was perfectly non-controversial before. If I want to stream, watch TV, I know I'm not going to get special features, but if I want to buy a DVD, I will get special features. So why does that have to change? I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it'd be a great idea if Netflix had like certain stuff that had a plus feature to it. I don't think they should even charge extra for it, frankly. I think it should be just a thing where Netflix negotiates and says, hey, we also have the opportunity to get some special feature stuff in here. But I don't think it's crazy to say like, oh, well, that goes along with when you own or download it or rent it even.
Here's what it is, Tom, is once I've paid for a subscription service, for example, Mog, I haven't bought an album since I subscribed to Mog about a year ago, because it's like, what's the point? If it's a mainstream release of any note, I already have it as part of this library that I pay access to. And I feel the same way with Netflix, which means it's got to be a unique type of story that or unique experience, like the Upstream Color. I didn't mind spending $20 because it was still in theaters at the time, and I got to watch it at home. But outside of that, what's the point of owning a movie or television show that you're only going to watch once or twice, you know? And in fact,
but no, the point is not that you watch it once or twice. The point is you buy a movie or television show that you know you're going to watch more than once. I watch Lord of the Rings like once a year, so I own it because I don't want to ever be in a situation where I can't watch it because it doesn't happen to be on the streaming service. So I'm not saying you're wrong that it wouldn't be cool to have some extras in there in Netflix, but I don't think that's the best service of it, because where it fits and why it fit on DVDs before is like, oh, you're not just kind of like popping in to see what's available and watching things on the fly like a streaming service. You love this and you want to know everything about it. You want to own it.
Here's what I'm trying to express is I assume there's other people like me that now that they've entered the streaming clubs, they're out of the movie buying business. However, I'm in the streaming club, and there are movies that I don't want to have to buy. I will not spend $24 for Blu-ray just to hear a commentary track. However, I'd really like to know what's being said in it, and I would love it if I pay a couple bucks extra. I'm
perfectly on board with that. I get what you're saying, and I think that's a fine idea. Netflix, hopefully will do something. Maybe Amazon will do something like that. You seem to be saying it was stupid to have it only available as downloads. And I think that's the logical first step in this process, because that's where things have come from.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's stupid. I think it's underutilized. It's inefficient.
I don't think it's inefficient. Yeah, I don't think it's inefficient. In fact, that's more efficient because I know what I'm getting. And I can get what I want when I want it. I just have to pay for it, and I know what I'm getting, and I'm just getting that. Whereas Netflix is inefficient because I don't know if it's going to be there all the time. I don't know when it's going to be there, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be there. It's just a different way of delivering it. It's more of a spontaneous, like, oh, they have an Avengers with the director's commentary. I think I'll watch that today, versus I would like to watch the Avengers director's commentary. Where is the best way to get that? I would have to go look it up. I can't count on it always being on anything, just like I can't count on any movie always being on Netflix because things come and go.
No, see, I disagree. I say it is inefficient because you have a desire that is not being met among the people.
It is being met. You just don't want to pay for it.
Well, yes, it's at a service. I have to buy the redundant ability to watch the movie. And then
you can rent it. You can rent it on Vudu.
If you rent it, then you don't get the special features. That's the whole.
You can rent the HD Plus on Vudu and get the special features.
I mean, if they happen to have it on Vudu, but again,
that goes back to the fact that it's not widespread yet. I'm just saying that it is starting to appear. Let's not forget that.
Okay. Brandon says, I love The Wire. I would easily call it the greatest show of all time, and there's my problem. I can't find anything as enjoyable. I watch and love Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Mad Men, Shameless, but it's not the same. I've tried shows like this Shield, but couldn't finish because my love for The Wire said it was too fantastical and didn't have enough police reality in it. Well, I mean, it's true. I have tried the latest Doctor Who series. Hell, I've tried Merlin. Please don't tell me Downton Abbey is the only show I have left to watch. I need my quality TV fix. My elitist views require it. Spoiler alert, Brandon. Downton Abbey is no Wire. From what I've seen so far.
In a very distant metaphorical way, it's the Wire of the Victorian rich. Sure. Maybe. No. Well, but when I read Brandon's email, I was like, so what Brandon's saying is, I've watched all the good things. Why haven't made any more good things?
Yeah. Well, now you've entered into our world. This is what Tom and I do with all the books. We read fantasy books, science fiction books. You're always chasing the high of the perfect best story. And occasionally you'll get somebody who evangelizes. Like it took me months, literal months of bugging Tom to dive into the Dark Tower experience, and then it ended up consuming his media, or book reading for the next year, right, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a feeling that Brandon will not be sufficiently satisfied until The Wire is remade. Like that is all he will accept.
No.
Try Treme. Go to HBO Go and just try a bunch of stuff. But you have mentioned all of the best shows that have been made recently. So I don't think there's an answer for Brandon. Really don't.
I say don't stop trying, though. Get out there and
keep trying.
Chasing,
yeah, absolutely.
Chase that dragon, man. You'll get it again. Just keep going. Run a little harder.
All right. Well, and Nick wanted to put in a vote for Rubber. He said it is the ultimate self-aware meta flick. I get that. I got that in the first 10 minutes. That didn't mean I liked it. That's all.
Yeah, man. He was harping on me. I was like, "Whoa, man, I ain't even seen it." So maybe I'll. You know what? I'll take the Rubber.
My name's Paul. This is between y'all.
I will. I'll go ahead and check out Rubber because he was like, Nick was really disappointed. He seemed to feel.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right.
Sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to insult your rubber.
Amazing.
That's it for this episode of Frame Rate. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/FR. You can email us, fr@twit.tv. You can watch us live at 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday at live.twit.tv. For Brian Brushwood, I'm Tom Merritt. See you next time.
All right. Jumping into the spoiler zone. Is that happening?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Here we go.
Silent breed is people!
Let's talk Man of Steel, bro.
What? The biggest story is Man of Steel.
So I feel like for Man of Steel, I feel like we should just talk about all the complaints that people had about Man of Steel and talk about whether we agree with them or not.
Yeah, sure.
So,
okay, that's good.
First off, Superman doesn't kill people, bro. He totally snapped Zod's neck. That's not what Superman would do. And I'll say, maybe to me, I'm like, well, maybe this is the incident that caused that belief in him because he's clearly broken as he kneels in front of Lois Lane, agonized over having taken a life. Maybe that's why he doesn't. Although there's a really good analysis of that aspect from Up to My Knees. What's that? Max Brooks? No, Max Landis. Sorry.
Max Brooks is World War Z.
Yeah, Max Landis has a really good analysis that you should listen to. And his take is the reason Superman doesn't kill is because he's an adult in a world of children. Who are not capable of the things he's capable of doing, of his level of maturity and perspective, whereas Zod is another adult. And another adult going, and there's no stopping him, and he's announced his intent to kill and destroy everything to where he was left with no choice. So I didn't have any problem with that. What about you? I
did not have a problem with it, although I also don't want to come off as like, yeah, superheroes should just kill everyone. I don't think that either. I think the problem is more that you don't see the remorse, right? I believe that this Superman would have remorse over the lost life. But I've seen plenty of reboots, right? Red Sun, Kingdom Come. There's all kinds of different Supermen out there. And so this is just another Superman. This is one of the multiple worlds of Superman. And this one doesn't happen to have underwear on the outside either. That also didn't bother me because I'm willing to accept that this isn't trying to be the pure Superman story. This is a different Superman story, and I like that. I like the way they told the Krypton story and how they actually weaved in a couple of different ways that it's been told in the past. Krypton was destroyed by an environmental collapse. Krypton was destroyed by war. In this one, it was both. So I have no problem with the fact that this Superman isn't going to be as careful. He's a little bit rogue. He's a little bit immature, maybe, in that he doesn't realize what his effects are yet. And maybe they'll explore that in the next movie where he feels incredibly guilty over that. I don't know. But no, that is not a thing that ruined this movie for me because I realized, okay, this is just a different Superman. He doesn't act like that. He doesn't act like the Christopher Reeve Superman.
What about the, shall we say, bold artistic choice of the director to infuse the third act big battle with very obvious 9/11 inspired imagery. There's you got the ashes, you got people running from clouds of smoke, you've got the slow collapse of buildings in a highly realistic fashion. You even have there's one moment where it's a close up of a person, but over their shoulder, out of focus, you can see the scaffolding from a collapsed building standing erect out of a pile of rubble, very clearly evoking the images of the collapsed World Trade Towers.
Did not notice it at all.
What? Really?
Didn't even occur to me till you just said it.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I remember, like Ron Richards last week, right before NSFW, he was on his way out, and he says, "I have seen all the buildings I care to ever watch collapse, and I didn't enjoy it in the movie or whatever." I haven't investigated it because, sure, collapsing buildings, you're in a New York-ish place, that's always going to evoke that. So I'm not saying I'm totally dead inside and I didn't think about that. It totally passed through my mind. But I've seen so many movies you didn't see,
who have done that. I mean, The Dark Knight did that. In fact, there's been movies set in New York. Freaking Avengers had damage going on. Granted, I don't think they showed a building collapse, but I've definitely seen other movies with building collapses that are entirely reminiscent of that. So I didn't feel like that was on purpose trying to be like 2001 September.
Well, 11th. I think it used imagery that is familiar and subtle to conjure that realistic depiction. Again, I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I thought it was bold, but I can understand why some people would be distressed or wound tight about it. I think my favorite change out of everything is the moment at the end when he dons the hilariously ridiculous Clark Kent wearing glasses disguise. And Lois Lane is not fooled at all. Like to the tune of giving a wink and welcoming him to the planet. I really enjoyed that subtle shift.
Well, and that goes along with something I enjoyed, which was something I didn't expect I would enjoy, is just dispensing with the whole I have to keep my identity secret from Lois. Lois finds out who he is right up front, essentially. Yeah. And I loved that. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of glad we don't have to go through that whole song and dance. Let's just get past it and get to the more interesting thing of Lois working with Superman. And I'm interested to see where they go with that in the next movie.
Yeah, I thought Zod was an incredible villain. I thought I loved the nods to the format of Superman 2, where it's like the battles. You had the brains, the brawn, and the chick. These three different flavors of bad guy. I loved the way they represented super speed, because if somebody was moving as fast as a speeding bullet, it would look pretty much like they're teleporting from place to place, and that's exactly what it looked like.
You know what, though? There have been a lot of vampire movies who have used that effect for the vampire super speed. So I don't think they're the pioneers in that, unfortunately. But yes, of course, that's how superheroes are going to look. I was really glad about that too. Yeah,
and did you notice some of the ad placement, like at one point in Smallville, there's a Sears, which is a very, on the one hand, artistically, that's a very small town America type of place to show. But I guarantee you, Sears did not get that prominent placement for free. Or that moment when, he's using his X-ray vision to say what's in the pockets of the guy through the one-way mirror, and he says a half-eaten pack of wintergreen lifesavers. I'm wondering how much got paid for that as well.
You know what, though? You always bring this up, and I never notice it until you bring it up, because I like having brands in movies, because that's what our life is like. Sure. If I was looking in someone's pocket, I would say Wintergreen Lifesavers. And you wouldn't accuse me of, oh, Tom doing product placement, telling me what kind of lifesavers they are, huh? Yeah, or grab me a Dr. Pepper. That's the way we live. And the fact that they keep it out of movies and have these generic brands makes movies less realistic to me. So when I see that stuff and it's not contrived. Now, when it's contrived, I agree, it starts to be a problem. But like showing a Sears in the background, good. There are Sears in small towns. That's actually appropriate. If they had shown some out of context part, like the Nordstroms in Smallville, maybe it's like, it seems like a little bit of a high-end chain for Smallville. I don't know if that's what I would expect there.
Right. Well, and I agree it's not obtrusive, but I just Man, I wish I could unknow that those deals are made all the time.
No, but you can't. Just don't think about it, because not all product placements are product placements. As Dana Brunetti said, we didn't get paid by Apple to put all the Apple stuff. We just thought that was accurate to the characters. Sometimes what you think are product placements are not.
That just makes it all the more interesting, like, because you evaluate, like,
then you start the mind game about it. I see. Yeah,
well, because now it's not like, because now I want to know, because I'm thinking like, okay, what's the market value?
Was that a product placement, or was that just a?
Yeah. I mean, that's probably worth $1.5 million, because if you figure everyone who's going to see it,
I don't want to spoil World War Z for you, but could I spoil a product placement in World War Z?
Yeah, please, by all means.
Okay, there's a soda machine that is clearly Pepsi, like not hidden that it is Pepsi. Yeah. He pulls out a soda and starts drinking it, and the label is obfuscated. The way it would be if you just grabbed it. You don't try to make sure the label's showing, right?
Yeah.
So he just picks it up and he's drinking it on camera, and you just see the backside of the can.
But it is a Pepsi can, though.
It is definitely a Pepsi can, because it was a Pepsi machine. So is it just, you know what, we're going to have a Pepsi machine here, and we're not going to get Pepsi to pay, so we're not going to make a point of having the Pepsi logo? Or was it clever product placement where someone said, yeah, but everybody's going to cringe when they see the logo because they're going to think it's placed there. So we'll have them have the back of the can so it'll look more natural, but you'll still get the Pepsi product placement. I don't know.
You know, and I wonder, man, I would love to be a fly on the wall for those negotiations, because they're all like, look, this is not the kind of movie where we could get away with that kind of crass placement. The best we could do. Now, we understand normally you'd pay $1 million for this kind of spot. Here's the best we could do. We're not going to show the label, but you could just give us $500,000 and it'll clearly be a Pepsi. Is that good enough?
It's probably tiered, right? Like, you want the Pepsi machine? That's $500,000. You want Brad Pitt holding a Pepsi can? That's $1 million.
Exactly. Oh, man, I would love, if anyone knows the inside sauce and all this, or if there's any articles, because again, it's like I'm not mad or fired up about it. I'm just fascinated by it, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I'm sorry if I'm trying to infect you with that same problem, Tom.
No, I've been pretty resistant to it, because I think about all this stuff. I just don't think about it when I'm watching the movie. And unless it's really bad, unless it's, let's go take a ride in my Ford Prius and look at it, the new great Ford Prius geopositioning system to get our directions.
Ah, the old Ford Prius, my favorite of the Ford vehicles.
Yes. And then you're like, those are two different cars. Why are they saying that? Any other Man of Steel things we're forgetting?
Love the aesthetic. Love the pinpressions UI that they had in Krypton. I said it before. Every single second, Russell Crowe is talking is amazing. I loved him controlling the ship and being around every corner as Lois Lane was walking around. It was great. I loved the movie a lot, and I'm going to go see it again in the theater.
I loved the tease to LexCorp. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I love that. Well, that's the other thing, is I love the fact that there was no kryptonite, although you could say that there was a kryptonite-esque aspect to it, which I thought was handled very well.
That was better than kryptonite, frankly, yeah.
And the bad guy wasn't Lex Luthor. And in fact, the whispers I'm hearing, the rumors are that Act 2 of this, the sequel, will be opening shot is Lex Luthor rebuilding this destroyed metropolis and calling out publicly the destruction that Superman allowed to happen on his watch, and getting like a public outcry against him.
Oh, I think it was brilliant to start with Zod, right? Because that makes sense. Who would be the first person to come after Superman? It would be Zod. Let's start with the alien influence, because that leads very nicely into Lex Luthor saying, this man is an alien. We can't trust him. Look what he did to Metropolis. And when Metropolis was being destroyed and we saw the LexCorp truck, I was like, are we going to see a tease? Is there going to be like a headline or a brief show of someone protesting? And they didn't go that far. And I'm kind of glad they didn't. But my head was already definitely thinking that way of like, oh, this is the perfect situation for Lex's ideology to show up and make a compelling story.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. I am not offended by it. I respect Ron Richards very much. I understand he is like incensed based on his Twitter by this movie. And I
Jeff Kanata too, apparently.
Yeah, Kanata didn't like it either. And that's, I think it's all about expectations. It's about what you wanted out of the movie. And I wanted nothing out of the movie. Yeah. After the disappointment that was Superman Returns, I went in saying, I will probably be disappointed. And I wasn't. And so there you go.
Same here. Right on, man.
All right, that wraps up our spoiler zone. Thanks everybody for hanging around. We'll see you in the next frame rate.